I am one of your hosts, Daniel Faust. And this month, we're talking about transformation as you've been watching each and every week in the month of August. And now we're back in the boardroom and talking about transformation in the boardroom because our boardrooms are changing. We've been very little in them or 6 feet distance and everything else. Some of us have gone to CVR, which is commercial teams. Other people have gone to Zooms. Other people are just going over and canceling meetings and things of that nature. And with COVID, it might ramp up again that we might come back home. But now we're coming home for another reason because a good percentage of the population, military veterans and first responders, maybe not as much as the direct first responders as firefighters and police, but a lot of us are working from home whenever we can. Now our kids are coming home. If you've been watching on Facebook, YouTube, CNN, everything else, that because of COVID, a lot of our schools are some schools have gone together and then they get shut down. Other ones are going to hybrid models. Other ones are going to virtual models. Some of them are trying to combine both. And now it's even more scary. Like this has happened to us in Dover just tonight. Our workspaces and play spaces are merging. So now our kids that used to go to the playgrounds and go to school and connect with their friends are going virtual. We have gone on and gone virtual, and our workspaces and our play spaces are merging together. And the question I have for you guys, which I've been asking myself for days, is what do we do in this season? I know for our board, it was elected 4-1 to go to hybrid/virtual. So instead of going over and being and moaning and can go over and just go rant in the social media world, just like we did when Netflix raised their rates years ago and there was 18,000 comments in 3 hours. It didn't change what Netflix went over and did it? But now we have to make a choice, just like we did in Netflix when they first went up their rates, is now what do we do in this season? Because the choices are now made. And sometimes we can influence change and other times we can't. So this is what I thought of, and I hope this goes over and serves you, is to go to a 2-zone defense needs to be played. Now, you might be going over and be married together, or you might be single mom or single dad, or maybe you have family. But no matter the size of the family and the complexity, if you have kids that are at home or are now going to continue to stay at home, a 2-zone defense needs to be played. You're going to be competing with workspace and play space. And a lot of times the kids don't understand how to make that transition, and we're still learning ourselves. But I wanted to go and share what we're going over and doing, and we've been thinking about and planning, and hope this goes over and serves you. And if there's anything that you go over and add, we're going to have a challenge at the end to go over and to bring this from monologue to dialogue, because that's the whole goal, is that we all thrive well together when all ideas are brought together. So we want to share what we're doing, what we're implementing doing, and things that we might try to go over and do as the days turn into weeks and the months ahead, so you can go over and apply. So this is a 2-zone defense play. So first one, which is most important, my first 2-zone defensive play for you guys is tap your leadership. No matter if you're active, guard, reserve, veteran, or even in the corporate world, your leadership's got to know what's going on. It doesn't have to get in depth, but the thing is that it's going to start affecting things again. We've already gone through summer vacation and needing to know like who's getting affected and who's not getting affected. Now, the military is going to actively step up, and most of the time they're going to figure out where their people are at. But we and ourselves to go and play 2-zone defense, no matter if you are single mom or dad, dual military, spouse in military, it doesn't matter where it goes over and grows, guy or girl, no matter the relationship, that tapping your leadership. So both people, both husband and wife or wife and husband or whatever it is, needs to tap the leadership if they're in a workplace environment. So that would be key on number 1, is to go over and to do that. They might have resources and contingencies, options, schedule options, maxi flex, those types of things to go over and do. Telework, maybe that can continue on, but that needs to go over and happen. Because we're not just having the effects of COVID. COVID's going down, but they're trying to keep the numbers mitigated because guess what? Big groups together in long periods of time, they can go over and pass. That's why you're seeing churches, schools, and concert areas and those types of areas are getting very limited and secluded. Yes, everybody can go work back at Walmart, but you have a 100,000 square foot building and you're in there very little time. School building, you're in 6, 7, 8 hours with the same confines of people. So zone defense number one, I want to suggest you is tap your leadership. They might have resources and maybe even financial resources to go over and help in this season. Zone defense play number two. This is going to be fun to go over and read. Support/defense. Now, this is more for if you are a couple, a married couple or a cohabitating couple, and you're together, is maybe one of the decisions that you need to go and make in this season is that maybe one person supports and goes out to the work front and the other one goes over and defends it. So for right now in our household, that my wife is going over and defending the household, but I'm going over and supporting. But I'm also using my Maxi Flex to come in to go over and give her breaks. So in a sense, I then go over and support, and then she goes over and defends. So both parties need to go over and to be actively involved. The whole breakup of like, hey, traditional roles really goes out the window per se. It's whoever is best to be in that support role of going out, and then the other person in the defense role staying at home. Or maybe if you're both working at home, that one person, whoever has the more flexibility and can go over and flex, becomes that supportive person for the kids. And then you go, then the other person goes over and defends. So the roles are going to be swapping back and forth. So the next strategy is you got to go over and determine, maybe there's a time to come home for a season. Maybe it's a time to pivot a job that's online. Maybe if your job's online, you start flexing a little bit more to going over and making it a night job compared to a day job. Maybe there's a way to go over and switch shifts for a season, or maybe there's a way to do more hours in a day and then be off more certain days. So no matter where it goes, is to go over and think about that, is that more than likely, if your kids are ranging from 5 to 12 coming home from school, most parents are not going to feel comfortable going over and leaving them by themselves. So maybe a support/defense there. And it doesn't have to be just married couples. If you have more adults in the household, that they can go over and you rotate shifts at other times that, hey, you're working and then defending. The unfortunate part is school is going to stay to the same schedule. So thinking about that mentality is who can go over and do the best in those areas. 2, zone defense play number 3, phone a friend. We need to be interconnected. There might be friends, there might be family, there might be opportunities of people coming in. Maybe there's retired teachers that you can go over and connect with, and maybe you go over and they can go over and assist. Maybe a family member or a cousin, or maybe there's like a neighbor that's gone over and sees this pandemic. We need to go phone and connect with friends to see if there's a way to make the burden easier. There is plenty of Americans, I'm pretty solid on across the board, has opportunities to go over and to assist in this community. But people don't usually assist until it's known. It's even proven in nonprofits and churches that if we don't ask people to go over and to volunteer or step up, or if they don't know our problems, they typically don't do anything. We always want people to come step into our way, and without them knowing, there's no way to help. So phone a friend, text a friend, whatever you want to go over and call it. So that's that one. 2, zone defense play number 4, take control of the school. And I don't mean just go upheaval it and then take it over. What I mean is that we have an opportunity nowadays. There's lots of programs, K-12, Connections Academy, you name it, that there is several online, virtual. Liberty University is another option. There is several options that are a lot more flexible. Homeschooling, maybe we'll get into another option a little bit, like co-ops. We'll go more into that. But instead of you allowing the school just to throw stuff at us, maybe it's a time and a season to play zone defense, is to take control of school. In that particular regard, a lot of the homeschools, co-ops, Montecillos, they have different rules that they're not following the same. So you don't have to be stuck with the chaos of what each school goes over and makes. That's what we're considering. We're going to do 6 weeks of seeing how this hybrid works out. If it doesn't, then we're going to look at doing homeschooling or hybrid, because in that regard, now the school year is stretched way more flexible than just the standard 7 to 4:30, this attendance, everything else. Especially if you're in laxer states like Delaware, it's key to go over. And if you are tapped out, maybe you need to go tap a new way to go do this school system, is take control of the school. So, in the sense of homeschooling Montecillos. Our next option we wanted to refer you is in the two zone defense play number 5 is co-op options. There is several people in multiple communities that are very smart and capable to teach a certain subject. I know I do really good at math. I know my wife really does good with science. We can know somebody else that does good with STEM stuff and everything else. Maybe as you go over and look at other options, like we talked about, take control of the school, that you do a co-op. And some states are more lenient than others, that you can go over and teach that curriculum. Maybe as you're going over and talking with your leadership and flexing, maybe an hour a week goes over and serves that co-op community by you offering something virtual, or maybe in an outdoor space with spacing to go over and teach something. You could easily go over and, for example, put gloves on, make a big, huge circle, and do a math game. And then everybody's tossing the ball back and forth if you give your 6 feet of distance. That could teach a math class real quick, or lead PE for kids for 30 minutes to an hour. And especially if you're still active military or you're a veteran, you're allowed to use your 80 hours of time. I mean, not veteran, using your time on the GS World, using your 80 hours a week. You could go flex in that way and do a maybe PE session with the kids. And then we stay interconnected as a community and going over and teaching them good health and wellness. So co-op options might be a great option to go over and to make things easier in this virtual school apocalypse. At least that's what I'm calling it. 2 zone defense play number 6, consolidate where possible. This comes more in the sense of online connectivity. So you're home, your spouse is home, maybe you have a blended family and you might have a mom or a dad or an uncle or a sibling living with you too, plus the kiddos. Bandwidth is going to get sucked real quick. The average company goes over and gives 250 gigs. Based on my IT experience, and I have to look for exact, but an average hour of streaming can be from a half a gig to a gig and a half, depending on how many students are on there. So you're going to go through each kid, if they're on the school 7 hours a day, you can go through like 4 to 10 gigs a day. So you could run out of bandwidth space now adding anything else out of the normative. So if you have multiple kids in the house, and let's say, for example, they're in the same grade, which is rare, but that sometimes happens, or maybe it's a different model, a Montecillo, or you're doing homeschooling, or maybe there's some other programs that they're using, consolidate where possible, to go over and to use that. Maybe you go over and consolidate where it's possible by taking them out and using other Wi-Fi sources and whatnot. But the long story short is, wherever resources you can go over and consolidate, internet bandwidth, time, energy, lessons, wherever it is, whatever model you go over and go, when you consolidate, then you'll be more successful in that particular regard, especially if you have a multi-family home in there. So maybe even consolidating hours and saying that, like, hey, you used to binge watch during the week, and now you're saying like, hey, during school weeks, when you're done school, you guys corporately only can stream for an hour. So it also teaches them teamwork to say what shows they're going to go watch or whatever, or what entertainment. So that's an option in that particular regard, because I know for ourselves, we're wrestling if we're going to pay for another router. Just have a separate company like Comcast on one and then that on the other. That is another option for defense, especially if you're all working at home. You could go over and do that, but I know money can be tight. So you'd have to have the flexibility to go cut resources where you can. To zone defense play number 7, meet/exceed expectations. Normally, when we're parents and kids are going to school, we always want them to go get the best grades possible. And I understand that that still might be your mindset. But reality is most of our kids can't go over and dedicate 7 hours on the computer, especially the younger they are. The teens, maybe. I know a 16-year-old back in Washington, veteran friend that retired. He's like, it took them the first 30 to 60 days to get adapted. And he did overall okay, but he's not getting like A pluses on every single thing because learning is totally different online. Adult learning is different than higher education in the sense of learning, and also elementary and K-12. Each learning style has certain elements that are in there. The adult learner is expected to do all the stuff on their own, and now we're putting that in front of our kids K-12. So another mindset that might make it easier for zone defense so you don't go over and get as frustrated and angry is to put it more of like, hey, I'm happy with you today just meeting expectations. If you get a C or a D in class, I'm ecstatic because you're already under stress and pressure. We don't need to put that additional pressure on there. And it's going to be better defense for our mental sanity, our emotional sanity, for ourselves as parents, and then also for the kiddos to not go over and put like, yeah, you need to be getting A's and B's. Most grades from kindergarten to 8th grade really don't matter. The only colleges go over and start looking is usually from 9th grade on forward. And then usually, even if they graduate high school, unless they want to do a direct accession to school, if you, after 6 months to a year of taking a break and going to college, they don't care about your ACT, they don't care about your SAT. They do competency-based tests, see where you sit, and that's it. And you can usually go to community college for a year, sometimes even 6 months to compensate, and then go over and then go to another school. And the way school learning is nowadays, it's not going to look the same, and degrees are not going to look the same. So my main concern for my family is just growth in their emotional, spiritual, mental well-being. So my challenge to you for there is to maybe lower down the expectation and just more for a meets expectation than exceeds expectation. Again, your choice. These are all tactics that we hope that challenge you and to have you think. But if they don't go fit you, hey, toss it off or add someone into the queue because we'd love to go hear more. All right. All right. 2 zone defense play number 8. Can I borrow a cup of internet? We used to go back in the day and borrow cups of sugar, and times can be rough in that particular regard. If your budget's limited and now you have a big family, maybe you could find out if your neighbors are going over and to help you in this season that maybe you can borrow a cup of internet. What does that mean? Maybe you can go coordinate to maybe borrow some stream time for maybe 1 or 2 of the laptops that you go over and have because the family next door might not be using it. Maybe you got the blessing of maybe a single family or just another family that they do work on a regular basis. So if you're struggling there, maybe you can go knock on the door, be COVID safe, keep your distance, and start getting to know your neighbors. And maybe you can borrow a cup of internet. Maybe it's not a cup of sugar. You're not going to go bake cookies, but to go over and to borrow a cup of internet can go over and help out a lot, especially when finances are tight and now our workplaces and our play spaces are together. Two zone defense play number 9, play the school field. Now, what did I write about that one? Give me a second. So in this particular regard on playing the school field, let's go to number 10 for a moment while I refresh myself. I know this is an episode getting recorded, but it'll be okay. So 2Z zone defense play number 10 is buddy up. This one is really simple in this regard, is that if you have multiple kids, and especially if their ages are broken up, is to have them have a buddy to keep themselves accountable in that regard. This is a zone defense type thing because when we go out like in public and we're going to a really big place, we get them to say buddy up and have their partners. So William tends to go with Trinity and Faith usually goes to Hope. Even when we do playing games and whatever, they tend to buddy up and whatnot. And it usually works most of the time well. Sometimes there's conflict depending on the situation. Come on, we're all human. But that same thing can go over and go to school to encourage one another, to keep them accountable to one another. And especially when you have multiple kids, it's very difficult to go track what they're doing for the day, how they're going over and doing, what school struggles and everything else. And especially if there's older kids, the older kids can teach the younger kids. Maybe there's a concept that they don't understand. And maybe the younger kids can go over and maybe bring some enlightenment that's, maybe not academically, but patience wise and other things. And they can keep each other hand in hand and they're working together. And also gives good teamwork dynamics at the same time. So another option of zone defense play is the buddy up. Now, our last one, going back to number 9, is play the school field. This one's a stretch, is that this zone defense might help if your school is going over and doing this, is that you are leveraging the school's amenities, like on this sense. So they might have to go over and they might have a Wi-Fi hotspot that they're putting out there. So you can go over and play that school field internet. Or you can go over and see if you can leverage the school equipment or the things that are on the outside to go over and to let off some steam, because being in front of a computer 7 hours a day and not getting those connections, with the people is key. So in that particular regard, you want to leverage everything that's in front of you. So if they have like Wi-Fi hotspots, they're still allowing you to use the fields. They're allowing you to go still use the playgrounds, whatever those types of things are. This is going to be key to break up the monotony in this particular regard, and then to go over and to help you to go over and thrive. So this one's a stretch in this particular regard on play the school field, but you got to go look at your particular school. Are they going to build hotspots? Are they going to allow you to use outside facilities, those types of things? So in this particular regard, it's definitely key to go over and to know your school system. So this is the time to go over and do research in that particular regard. All right. So our superhero challenge for the week is for you guys to join our Facebook page, War Hero to Superhero, to continue the discussion on virtual school apocalypse. Now, I know that this wasn't the standard traditional transformational message in the boardroom, but they are merging hand in hand. It is very quickly, schools are coming more and more virtual. And if we don't know how to go over and blend our workrooms, virtual workrooms, and our virtual playrooms now together and know those bounds and utilize every tool that we go over and have, we won't go over and thrive. We'll just go over and survive, and we will get stressed out. So I hope some of these tips are applicable to you. If there's something else that you'd like to add to the conversation, we'd love to go over and to hear that. And if you're struggling in the boardroom with ideas on going and keeping this 2-zone defense play, we'd love to go over and connect with you. Every military veteran and first responder gets 20 minutes free to go over and connect with us. And if you need more in-depth and you want to become that marriage superhero or that leadership superhero, especially in this transformation from now basically real boardroom to a virtual boardroom, from a real schoolroom to a virtual schoolroom, and this apocalypse, you want to take it and leverage it and to actually go from surviving to thriving, go connect with us on patreon.com/thrive not survive. We'd love to go over and to serve you for as low as $5 a month. We hope that you catch us next week on our War Hero to Superhero interviews. And again, we're always here to serve you. If you have any content that you want to bring up each and every week, go over and connect with us on Facebook or on YouTube or on the Easy Way wall, where we go over and stream this show on 15 different locations. So we want to empower you to go over and go from surviving to thriving. So don't go over and wait. If you're going over and wanting us to bring a topic of wisdom that you haven't tapped yet, or there's something that you're struggling with, we love to go over and connect that way. So thank you for all joining, and continue to go over and to thrive. And if you're not thriving, we love to connect you to make that transformation happen.